Hi, so welcome back to All About the Alternative. One of the things I cover on this channel is social media concepts, and this one is about advice channels. And some of them are doing some interesting things, some of them are a little bit concerning. Stick with me, I'm going to explain in a moment. Be right back. So, all about advice channels, and I best you maybe have come up with some of them every now and then. And sometimes all it takes is you're searching for something on the platform you're on, and you're looking at some advice, some information about the thing that's going on in your life, and you come across one of these channels. Maybe it's something financial, maybe it's something medical, maybe it's something relationship-wise. And so you're looking up the information, and you get to, you've typed in, hey, I want to know about how to take care of whatever issue it is, and one of these advice channels pops up. And of course they have all kinds of, advice that they've given over many years, and some of these have given many years worth of advice. Some of them are psychologists, some of them are just financial gurus, and they've given you information. Some of them are actually, they've got no credentials at all, and they're just giving out advice. And so you have to kind of take them with a grain of salt if you want to look at it that way. So look at those channels as entertainment, and most of us usually do. But then there are those, of course, that call into these channels, or they send in a question into these channels, or they go live on their channels and give their, what's going on in their lives. Sometimes you got to kind of take the back seat and go, well, okay, that's great information. Now I listened to one of them, and they gave advice as a financial advice, to do everything step by step to get out of some kind of debt, or to achieve a different job or something like that. And one of them gave some actual financial advice, but they gave some medical advice. And I thought that was a little bit strange. And you probably know which one I'm talking about. He gives the advice, eat beans and rice, and rice and beans, as one of the pieces of advice. I think he stopped giving that advice, so I hope he stopped giving that advice, because I caught the live version of what that does to somebody's diet. And if you don't know who you're telling this information to, you could be giving the wrong information. And health-wise, that can be very, not well to that person's well-being. And so I'm suggesting this right now, that being given that advice isn't exactly the best thing, and it can destroy somebody's metabolism by just suggesting something like that. And so hopefully that is something that has stopped. I haven't seen it too often anymore, but then I haven't really watched too much of it in recent months that I would see them do that. But that was one of the pieces of advice that was being given. But you also have to remember, they're only giving one side. The person is calling in. Maybe on occasion I have seen where they have the two sides of the story, at least two parts of it, calling in at the same time, and they're speaking to both sides and saying, well, how can we fix this problem, or how do we deal with the problem? But most of the time you've only got one side. You've got one person telling about their life story of how they've financially crashed, and how do they solve their problem, or the relationship has, they've gotten a divorce, and how do they solve the problem with taking care of the kids, or a new relationship has formed, and what do they do, and this person's doing something they don't like. I'm being very general because I don't want to say specifically this channel, or several, it's related to several channels that actually are a part of this. But they are giving advice. They are giving you advice on life, and they're trying to suggest, and it's not giving you the advice, they're giving the person the advice, but the fact is they're only getting one side of the story. They're helping the person with what they know. And occasionally I have heard them say, well, if I had the other side here, I might be able to actually help them in a different way. But most of the time they make a general answer. And sometimes I've seen where that answer doesn't exactly say, hey, well, that's fine for that one person, but if it involves more than one person, they're, they may be giving the wrong thing. It comes to mind something like, if you saw it in the movie with Dolly Parton with Straight Talk. She gives advice, and she only got one side of the story. She told the person to leave the other person, but it was actually the person that she was speaking to was the actual problem, and but she wouldn't have been aware of that. These come to mind too, and it seems like they're almost doing the exact same thing. So don't always listen to the advice being given, especially if it's not for the situation of your own situation. There may be more than one side going on, and we're not getting the whole story. And so, these channels basically do that. And a lot of times too, even with, let's say, they're doing legal stories, or they're doing stories that have taken place in, you know, their medical stories and that. You're still only getting one side. You're seeing the patient going through the situation, but you're not seeing all the other details that could be a factor in the story. Or even these AI ones that are telling you this little blurb about what's going on in their situation, and this is how I solved it. But they're not telling you that maybe they were hurting other people in the process. So all that information, all is to say, they're not telling you everything because they don't know everything. Especially these advice channels are trying to give you advice based on what they know. I get it. They're trying to give you advice based on what they know, but they don't know everything. They're not really aware of all the whole situation. And unless they're going to walk into your home and get the information, they're probably not going to know that. So with that, I'm going to leave this where it is. And if you can give me a like and a subscribe, I'll see you on the next one.